So we have a bunch of files here, CSV, 4 files. They represent sales for a pizza joint. We have order details, orders, pizza types, and pizzas. And we also have questions that you're supposed to answer to help this pizza outlet improve on their sales and marketing. We have a bunch of questions to answer, KPIs, 5 KPIs, and 8 questions that they need for us to answer for them in order for them to improve their business. How do you do this? This is what this project is about. Hi guys, welcome to this project. In this project, we are going to analyze data for a pizza joint, sales data that is meant to help improve the pizza joint sales and their marketing. What you see in front of us is a dashboard, and we are going to create one just like this one. I've done a similar project before, and I'm going to include the link in the description, just like this one, analyzing this exact data using SQL Server 2022. And this one we are going to use Power BI only, Power BI tools, DAX, and Power Query to analyze this data, build visuals, and answer the questions that are required of us in this project. In this project, I'll try to be as detailed as I can, but realize that this goes only as far as this project is concerned, and there might be some things that you could miss because we are only doing a project. I do have a Power BI course, and I'm going to include the link to this course in the description. It's the kind of training that is designed to feel more like you're doing a project, the kind of training that is designed to stick with you, and you're going to love working with Power BI. Again, I'm going to give you the link in the description in case you'd like to take a look at it. I do encourage you to take a look at it. Here is the data that we are going to use. It's in 4 CSV files. I'm going to load it into Power BI, and then you can take a look at it and decide what to do, and then go ahead and analyze the data. I have a fresh instance of Power BI open. It doesn't have any data. On the right side, you can see we haven't loaded any data yet. So what I'll do is I'll go to get data, and then I'll click on text CSV, and if I can take you through this, I can click on text CSV to import our data, and then I can also click on more, which I'm going to do. You notice that text CSV is the first one here, up here. I can click on that and then click connect. I can also click on file. Again, notice that you have text CSV. I'll simply go ahead and double click on this one. They all go to the same place. I'll simply double click on this one, and I'll navigate to the folder where the files are. I'll click on order details and click open. Power BI is connecting. I get a preview, and you can see Power BI has already determined the coding. It's comma separated based on the first 200 rows. This is the first file. This looks good. I'll click load. It's loading the data. You can see that you have order details on the right side under data. I'll go back and get data. Double click text CSV. I'll double click orders. We get a preview and everything looks good. I'll click load, and our data is loaded. You can see it on the right side, orders under data. I'll go back and get data. Double click on text CSV. I'll double click pizza types. The preview looks good. I'll click on load, and our data is loaded. You can see it on the right side. Lastly, I'll go back to get data. Double click on text CSV. Double click on pizzas. I have the preview and everything looks good again. I'll go ahead and click load, and it's loaded. You can see it on the right side. Now we have all our data. I'm going to expand these order details. You can see these are the columns: order details ID, order ID, pizza ID, and quantity. I'll expand orders. We have the date, order ID, and time. I'll expand pizza types. Notice we have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. We have to clean this before we can use this data. And then pizzas, we have pizza ID and so on. Now on the left side, I'll click on table view so we can take a look at our data. Order details is loaded, and you can see that it has 48,620 rows. Everything looks good. As you can see, the headers, column headers look good. I'll click on orders on the right side, and here is the data. It has 21,350 rows. Again, everything looks good to me as far as I can tell. Pizza types, you have column 1 up to column 4, but notice that the first row we have pizza type ID, name, category, and ingredients. The first row should actually be the column header, and we're going to fix that in a moment. Lastly, I'll click on pizzas to take a look at it again, and again everything seems to be good. Everything looks good, and we have 96 rows from the lower bottom left. I'll click on model view so we can just take a look at it briefly. I'm going to minimize this to create more room. Again, notice that pizza types has column 1, column 2 up to column 4. We cannot use this data this way. The first thing we're going to do is to fix these columns, then we can use the data. I'll go back to our view. I'll click on it. I'll minimize filters and visuals. You're not ready for them yet. So in order to make our project easy, we notice that we have 4 tables, and we are going to use all the data in each of these tables. What you're going to do is to merge this data into one table, and it will make it a lot easier for us to use the data. So I'll go to Power Query. You notice here under Home, I'll click on Transform. This will take us to Power Query. This is Power Query. On the left side, we have our queries. On the right side, we have the steps that Power Query has applied. Now, I'm going to click on Orders. Everything looks good like we saw before. And then pizza types. This is where we have column 1, column 2 up to column 4. But notice the first row is actually supposed to be the column header. So on the upper right here, I'm going to click on Use First Row as Headers. And now you notice that the first row has been promoted to the column header. Now on the right side, you can also see that the step has been logged, changed type 1. Before we merge this data, I want to take you back to Power View and take a look at how our data looks like now. So I'll come here, I'll simply click Close and Apply on the left top. Close and Apply. And you're back to Power View. I'll go ahead and expand this. You can see the columns are okay, look good. Everything looks good as far as the columns are concerned. I'll take you back to the model view. You remember that we had this one having column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. I'll take you back to model view. I'm going to minimize this to create more space. I want to show you that Power BI usually figures out the relationships between tables. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see everything together. Power BI is able to figure out relationships between tables, and it usually will relate tables the way they are supposed to. For example, here we have the orders table and we have order details. If I put my mouse over this, you can see that order ID is a common field there, and that's the one that Power BI has used to relate those two tables. You come to this one, I put my mouse over it. Pizza ID is a common field there, and this one is pizza type ID between pizzas and pizza types. So Power BI has already figured out the relationships between these two tables. It's also always a good idea to come here and make sure that Power BI has actually got it right. It's possible sometimes it could relate this wrongly. It's always a good idea to come and check and make sure that everything looks good. So far, everything looks good. As we stand now, if I can come back to our data, we can use this data like this without doing any merge. Like I said, we can use it exactly as it is, but it's going to be much easier on us if we can merge this data and make it only one table. So I'll go back to transform data to go back to Power Query and complete the merge. I'll click on transform data and we're back to Power Query. Again, on the left side, usually, always, this is where we have our queries. On the right side, this is where we are going to see the steps that we are going to be doing. Power BI has promoted the headers, and it has also changed the type of data. So that means that this is text, the name is text, this is text, and this is text. Everything looks good so far. The next thing we are going to do is to merge these data. We have the order details, which is 48,000 rows. We have orders, then we have pizza types, and we have pizzas. I'll go ahead and click on order details, and then on the right top here, I'll click on merge queries. Notice there is a down arrow. I'll click on the down arrow and merge queries as new. The reason is I want to create a new query and leave the four queries, the four tables intact: the order details, orders, pizza types, and pizzas. So this is order details, which is the first one that is selected. It's selected because by default, this is the one that I've selected here. So this one is selected as the first one. And I'm going to merge this with orders. You notice we have a common field here. We have order ID and order ID. You have a common column. So I'll select order ID and I'll select order ID. And Power BI has made a match that 48,000 out of 48,620 rows. Everything looks good so far, and I'll click OK. The merge is complete, and Power BI has called it merge 1. I can rename this and call it merged data. Merged pizza data. Notice also when I do that on the left side, the query is also updated to merged pizza data. So our merge is complete. And notice that we have an extra column here called orders. This one, it's called orders. And notice that it has table. So what I'll do is I'll click on the double headed arrow on the right side here. I'll click on it. And I'm going to select everything except order ID, because order ID is over here, is the one that we use to match this column. So I'll unselect order ID and then I'll have date and time. I'm also going to unselect this one and click OK. So now we have date and time. I'll go ahead and click on merge queries again. Notice that merged pizza data is selected here because that's what we have selected on the left here. And I'm going to select pizza types. But when I select pizza types, notice that we don't have any match. We don't have any column that matches. So I'll select pizzas instead. And notice that we have pizza ID here. I'll select that, and we have pizza ID here. I'll select that. Everything looks good, and I'll go ahead and click OK. Power BI has already made a match of all our data, 48,620 out of 48,620. I'll go ahead and click OK. The merge is completed. Notice again we have table. I'll go ahead and click on the double headed arrow. In this case, I'm going to unselect pizza ID because we have pizza ID over here. I'll unselect pizza ID and click OK. So you can see we have 3 new columns: pizza type ID, size, and price. On the right side over here, you can see that it has merged queries and expanded pizzas. I'll go back to merge queries again. I'll click on it. And this time, we are going to add pizza types. So now we have pizza type ID over here, and we also have pizza type ID up here. I'm going to select those two, and we are going to have new fields: name, category, and ingredients. I'll click OK, and you can see up here that it has merged queries 1, and you can see we have a new column here, tables. I'll click on the double headed arrow under pizza types, and pizza type ID is the one we don't need here because we already have it over here. I'll leave the others: name, category, and ingredients. I'm going to uncheck this use original column name as prefix. I'll uncheck that and click OK. And now we have 3 new columns: name, category, and ingredients. I want to show you something real quick. So I'm going to undo this step, expanded pizza types. I'll just remove it, and merged queries. If you come here, notice that I unselected use original column name as prefix. I'm going to check this so you can see how this works. Use original column name as prefix, and then I'll click OK. And you can see that even though I have these new columns, it's pizza types dot pizza type ID, pizza types dot name, pizza types dot category. This is what I'm trying to avoid when I uncheck that field. So I'm going to undo this again, and I'll repeat what I did before. So I'll simply just come here, click on the double arrow, uncheck this, and uncheck pizza type ID. Now I'll just have name, category, and ingredients, and I'll click OK. Expanded pizza types, you can see it's already been done. And we have our new columns: name, category, and ingredients. Everything looks good so far. We have our data, one table that represents everything. We have everything we need so far. So now we have one table that represents all these tables. The merged pizza data represents all these tables. I'll go back to home and then click close and apply. Power BI is analyzing, importing the queries, loading those queries, and our data is loaded. Notice up here we have merged pizza data. I'll minimize this to make things easier. Notice also that we have the old tables, all the 4 tables are here, and this is the one that is merged. It would be much easier for us to hide these so that we don't confuse ourselves. So I'll go back to Power Query. I'll click on Transform Data. We are in Power Query and we have our queries on the left. I'll right click on the first one, Order Details, and notice here we have Enable Load. I'm going to click on it so that it's unchecked. Notice that we have a check mark in front of it. I'll click on that. Then I get a warning that disabling this will remove the table from the report and any visuals that use its column will be broken. I'll click Continue. And notice now it's in italics. I'll right click on it again so you can see that Enable Load is unchecked. So I'll go ahead and do the same for orders. Right click on it, click Enable Load, Continue. Now it's in italics. Again, I'll do the same for pizza. Click on Enable Load, Continue. Lastly, right click on pizzas, Enable Load, Continue. Everything is good, looks good, and I'll click Close and Apply to go back to Power View. Take a look, keep your eye on the right side here, and you can see the other tables have disappeared. We now have just one table that contains all our data. Now we can go ahead and start our project and create our visuals. So let's take a look at our data. If I expand merged pizza data over the right side here, you can see we have all our columns, but I will take us to the left here, table view. I'll click on it and you can see our table that has a total of 48,620 rows down on the left side, bottom left, just as we expected. Our columns here, everything looks good, all the way from order details ID to the ingredients. Everything looks good, everything is here, and our data is ready for us to use it to answer the questions that we need to answer. I'll take us back to the model view, and now that we have, I'm going to minimize this, and now that we have merged our tables into one, we only have one table. So I'll go back to table view, and I'd like for us to take a look at the questions that we need to answer. The first one here is total revenue, which is the sum of all the revenue, the sum of all the sales. Total orders will be a distinct count of all order IDs. Average order value, which will be total revenue divided by all the orders. Total pizza sold will be the sum of all the quantities sold. And then average order value will be total pizza sold divided by the total number of orders. In order for us to calculate these KPIs, we are going to use DAX functions, which are built into Power BI, and For that, I'm going to right click anywhere. I'm going to right click up here, right click, and I'm going to choose new measure. The first one is a sum total revenue, which will be a sum of all revenue. So this measure will be called total revenue equals sum. I'll click on it, and you're looking at the price, which is the revenue price. I'll close the bracket and I'll click commit, and you can see it has been created on the right side. I'll go back and check the next one. The next one here is total orders. I'll copy that, and this will be a distinct count of all the order IDs. I'll go back to Power BI, right click on this one, new measure, and this will be total orders, will be a distinct count. Distinct, you have distinct count of all the order IDs. This is the order ID over here. I'll select it, close the bracket, and click commit, and you can see we have total orders. The next one is average order value, which will be the total revenue divided by total orders. Go back to Power BI, right click, new measure, and then measure here will be average order value, which is equal to the total revenue divided by total orders, and I'll hit commit, and you can see up here we have average order value. The next one will be the total pizzas sold, number 4, and this will be a sum of all the quantities sold. So I'll come back here. Now the quantities, this is the quantity column, and we are going to get a sum of this. So I'll right click on this one, new measure, and the measure name here is total pizza sold equals sum. I'll click on it, and I'm going to select the quantity over here, and I'll close the bracket and hit commit, and you can see we have total pizza sold down here. Lastly, we have average pizzas per order, and this will be the total pizza sold divided by the total number of orders. So I'll go back to Power BI, new measure, the measure name is average pizzas per order, and this will be the total number of pizzas sold. So total pizzas sold divided by total orders, this one here, and I'll click commit. And you can see that we have our 5 KPIs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have them all, and now we are ready to go to the next step and create our visuals using these KPIs. Okay, I have our canvas open in Power BI. The first thing I'll do is to format the background of the canvas. I'll click on it, I'll open visualizations and I'll click on format your report page, and the canvas background, the color is currently white. I want to change this into a little bit dark color like this one. Click on that one. The transparency, try 50% and see how that looks like. Maybe a little darker than that. I can put it at 50%. I think I like that. Next thing I'll do is I'll insert, click on insert, shapes. I'll insert a rectangle. I'm going to resize this, stretch it all the way, and I'm going to stretch it all the way. Then I'll come to style, and the color, I'm going to choose this one here. I'm going to choose this one. I can play with it a little bit and see how it looks like. It's a little too dark. I think I like it that way. I'll just leave it like that. I'll go ahead and double click on this card, the new card. Double click on it. We have it here. First, I'm going to put our new measures, our KPIs. I'll start with revenue. I'll click on this one. And you can see our total revenue is 800K. Next, I'll go to total pizzas sold, which is 50K. And then the total orders. And now you can see that our total orders are 21K, like we had seen before. So everything looks good. I'll click on average pizza size, average pizzas per order, sorry, and then average order value. So we have our KPIs here. I'm going to resize this. And I'll bring it up here. Probably need to make it a little smaller. I'll click on format your visual. Under your visual, start with the layout. It's a single row, maximum cards 5. That's good enough. I'll minimize this. Then I come to callout values. I'm going to use din. I'll use a font size of 30. And this will be bold. And the color, I'm going to use this blue. That looks good. That's the callout values. I'll minimize this. I'll center. Show blank S. We don't have any blank. That looks good. So I'll minimize the callout values. Then I'll come to the reference label. The reference labels. I'll go back to these are the values. And then we have the label, which should be on. The label is this one. If I minimize that, you can see that it disappears. Is the name. So I'll click on label, expand it. I'll change the color to, let's try this one. Yeah, that looks good. And I want this value below. I'm also going to change this font to Sejo UI semi bold. I think that looks better. I'll leave it like that. So I'm going to minimize the label, and I'm going to minimize the callout values. The cards, come to the cards. Notice here that you can select one of the cards or all of them. For example, I can select total revenue, total orders, or whichever, but I'm going to keep that as all. The shape is going to be a rounded rectangle, and you can see that the shape has changed into a rounded rectangle, but I want to give this 10 pixel. You can see this looks better than 25%, than 25 pixel. I'm going to remove the background. The background color there is white. Let's just leave it on like that. The border is on, and I'll give it the same color, maybe a little darker. I'll minimize that. I'll put on the shadow. You can see now we have a shadow here. I'll expand this, but the offset should be inside. You can see it looks a little better on the shadow. I'm also going to turn on the glow. Again, this is going to be inside. And you can see, I think I like that much better. I'm going to minimize that. I'm also going to minimize the shadow. And I'm going to turn on the accent bar, this one. When I turn that on, you can see that you have an accent bar on the left side of each box. And I'm going to leave it on the left. I'm going to change the color to this blue, dark blue. I'm also going to increase the size to 3, like that. I think that looks good. Kind of matches with these values. I think I'm gonna leave it like that. Lastly, I'll come to general effects. I'm going to remove the background. We're not done yet. I'll come back to the visual. I'll come to the cards. I'll come to the layout, and I'm going to reduce the space between the cards. I'll have this as 2, and you can see that we have more space. We can read everything. Everything looks good, and I'm going to leave it like that. The next thing I'll do here is insert the title. I'll come to insert, and I'll select a text box. In the text box, I'll call this Peter Sales Report. Peter Sales Report. I'll resize this a little bit. I'll move it over here. maybe make it a little smaller, and I'll make the font size 20, bold. I'm also going to make the font size, the font color white. I'll click on the text box, and under effects, I'm going to remove the background, so you can see, now we can see pizza sales report. I can reduce this a little bit. Now I'm going to make it a little wider, resize it a little bit. I'm also going to move this a little bit. To give us a little bit more space down here. I'll go back to insert, and I'm going to insert an image. I'll browse to our image folder, and I'm going to double click on this one, the pizza. I'll resize it. That should be good. Then I'm going to drag it up here. That should work. Next, I'm going to do the same. Import, click on image. I'll double click on revenue. I'll resize it. That should work. Then I'm going to drag it over here to the total revenue. I'll do the same. Image, average order value. I'll resize it. Then I'll drag it over here. I think I should resize it a little bit more. Make it a little smaller. That should work. And drag it over there. That should work. Next one, again, total pizzas. Double click on it. I'll resize it. A little bit smaller. Total pizza sold. I'm going to increase this a little bit to create a little bit more room, like that. I think that should be okay. Then our image will be a little bit bigger. Again, I also notice here average pizzas per, so I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm going to change the font size there. But this one will be total pizzas sold. and I'll drag it over here. That should work. I'm gonna make this just a little bigger. That should work. The same with this one. Just a little bigger. And I'll drag it here. That should be fine. Again, I'll double click on it. I'll click on that and then double click on total sales, which will be the total orders over here. That looks good. I'll resize it that way. And I'll drag it over here. I'll make it a little bit smaller. That should work. Then average pizzas per order. I'll go back for it. This one, 5. I'll resize it. That should work. Then I'll reduce this one. Then I'll drag it over here. I'll make this a little bigger, just a little bit. Everything looks good so far, but this one doesn't look good. I'll go back to format your visual. I'll go back to callout values. And the labels, instead of 12, I'll make it 11. That doesn't work. Make it 10. And that should work. So everything, we can read everything. Everything looks good. I'll leave it like that. I think I can make this pizza sales report a little bigger, and I'll see if I can do 24. No, I can't. Maybe 20. I think I'll stick with 20. Make that bigger and try 24 again. That should work. Everything looks good, and I'm just going to move this a little bit up. That looks better. I think we can work with it like that. And I'll leave it like that. Now we can prepare our canvas for our visuals. And I'm going to click on insert. Again, I'm going to do shapes. And this time I'm going to select the rounded rectangle. Click on it. I'll resize it. And I'll come here to under style. The color is going to be white. I'll come to general. Under shape, rounded rectangle is going to be 10%. I'll reduce this to 10%. That looks better. No rotation. Under style, we have the color is white. We have a border that is on. I'll leave it on, and I'll leave it as blue as it is for now. I'll turn on the glow. and I'll choose this color over here, this one here. I'll go back to the border and I'll choose this blue. So I think this looks good. I'm going to copy Control C and paste Control V and just create some, just resize them. Do Control V again. So down here, Control V again, and another one here. We're going to have 4 visuals on this page. I'm going to repeat the same again, and this time I'm going to bring it over here because we're also going to have a slicer on this side. I'll leave it like that for now. Now we can insert our visuals. Our first visual will be daily trends for total orders. This will help us identify patterns for fluctuations from day to day. So daily patterns for total orders. This means that is orders for each day of the week. I'll go back to Power BI. Let's go back to our data. Notice here that we don't have day. We do have total orders, which we have calculated over here on the right side, but we don't have day. That is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. But we do have a date. We need to extract the day from here. And to do this, we are going to use Power Query. I'll go back to Home and then click on Transform Data. This opens Power Query. And remember that we are using merged data, merged pizza data. We have the date. This is the column that we need. I'll select it. And then I'm going to insert a new column. Add column. I'll click on add column. And then notice here that we have date. Because I selected a date column, this one is active. I'll click on date. And I'm looking for day. And I'm also looking for name of day. I'll click on that. And you can see on the right side here that inserted day name. If I scroll to the right, you can see that we have day name complete. I think that's all we need for now. I'll go back to Power View. So I'll come to Home, Close and Apply. I'll click on Close and Apply. And now you can see that we have a new column called day name. I'll go ahead and go back to Report View. And I'm going to insert a stacked column chart. Double click on it. I'll bring it over here. Try to resize it a little bit to fit here. I'll check total orders. That goes to the y-axis by day, which is day name over here. And you can see here right away we have a new problem. I'm going to make this a little bigger so I can show you. You can see you have Monday, Tuesday, and so on, but Wednesday is too big. We can't quite read everything. I think it's better we have an abbreviation, 3 characters, 3 letters, an abbreviation of this. For this, I'm going to click on table view, and I'm going to add a new column from here. I'll click on new column, and the column name will be called, let's call it day name with an underscore. If you can remember that, day name with an underscore equals, you're going to use upper. I'll click on that, and it gives you text. You're going to use left. I'll click on that, and you need text and number of characters. The text will be day name, this column over here, day name. So day name, it's over here. I'll click on it, put a comma, number of characters, we want to use the first 3 characters. I'll close the bracket and I'll close it again, and then I'll commit. You can see here on the right side, now we have Friday and we have an abbreviation. I'll go back to report view. We still have our visual selected, and instead of using day name, we are going to use this one here. Now you can see we have Friday, Thursday, Saturday, and so on abbreviated. The other thing you notice also that we don't have any order. If I try to sort this, sort by the day name, you can see it's doing it by alphabetical order. If I try sort axis ascending, again it's doing it by alphabetical order. That means that we need to fix this. And to do this, again, we are going to go back to Power Query. I'll click on transform data. I'll click on merged data, pizza data that we are using. I'll click on add column, and then I'll click on conditional column. I'll call this day number. The column name here will be the day name. If the column name, if the day name equals Sunday, then we are going to output 1. I'll add a new one. If the day name equals Monday, then this will be 2. Add a new one. If the day name equals Tuesday, this will be Tuesday. This will be 3. If the day name equals Wednesday, this will be 4. I'll add a clause. If the day name equals Thursday, this will be 5. Add a new one. If the day name equals Friday, this will be 6. And lastly, if the day name equals Saturday, this will be 7. I'll click OK. Then you can see that we have a new column here called day number. I'll go ahead and go back home. I'll close and apply. Now if I go to the table view, you can see I have a day number. So I'll go back to report view, back to our visual. I'll click on day name. Notice up here we have column tools that just became highlighted. I'll sort column by day name, by day number. And you can see we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If this doesn't work, you just need to come here, sort axis, and make sure that it's selected by the day name. And here I'm using ascending order, so everything looks good. So now we're good to go. So we have this starting from Sunday to Saturday. That's good. Now we can format our visual. I'll click format visual. I'll come to the x-axis. We don't need these. We do need the values, but we don't need the title. I'll remove the title. The values, I'm going to leave it at 9. Let's see. And it's going to be this black. And I'm going to use Sejo semi-bold. See how that looks like? That's better. I'll close the x-axis there. I'll go to the y-axis. Here we don't need anything, so I'll remove the values and I'll remove the title. I'll close that. Then I'll go to data labels because I'll turn them off. I'll turn data labels on. You can see them up here. Now the value is on, and I want to format this. Again, this color is going to be the same black. I can increase the size a little bit, and I'm going to use Sejo semi-bold. I think that looks good, and the color is black. Okay, I'll minimize that, and I'll minimize the data labels. Now I'll go to the column. The color of the bars right now is blue. This blue. I'm going to notice that you can select any color that you want, but I'm going to use conditional formatting. So I'm going to click on this FX, that is conditional formatting. It opens into a new window, and the format style is going to be a gradient, and this is total orders. It's already selected, but if you need to, you can select it from here. It's already selected as total orders. The minimum, the lowest value, I'm going to select this as this color here, and the highest value, I'm going to select this theme color, that one, dark, and I'll click OK. And you can see we have Sunday through Saturday. I think I want to select a different color, so I'll go back, click on that one, the lowest. I'll click on this one. I think I like that one better. I just click OK. I think now I like this better. I'll minimize that. Notice here that we now have a legend. I'm going to turn the legend off. See that? We've turned off the legend. We can now go to general, the title. is on, and this is called total orders by day name. I'll call this simply total orders by day. Day name just came from the name that we gave it. Total orders by day. I'm going to center that, and I'm going to use again the same Sigil UI semi-bold, and I think that looks good. I could stretch it a little bit, but I think this looks good. So that's the title. I'll come down to effects, and I'm going to remove the background. That's all the formatting I'm going to do on this visual for now. Everything looks good as far as I can see, and I'm gonna leave this visual like this for now. Our next visual is going to be the hourly trend for total orders, and this will help us identify the busiest and slowest times of day so we can adjust accordingly. I'll go back to Power BI. I'll select the canvas so we don't have anything selected. Now we have our visuals, and for this we are going to use an area chart. I double click on it, put it back here, resize it. That should be good for now. So here we need to have total orders by the hour, and we can see our data here. We don't have hour anywhere. I'll come back here and go back to table view. Let's take a look at our data. Notice we do have the time, but we don't have the hour. So we need to go to Power Query. I'll go to Home, click on Transform Data. I'll go to Merge Pizza Data. That's the data that you're using. I'll scroll to Time. I'll highlight Time. I'll go to Add Column. Click on it. And notice now we have time active. Notice here it's because we selected date. Remember that when we selected date over here, date was highlighted. Now we select time, time is active. I'll go ahead and click on the drop down, and we need the hour, and I'll click on hour. Then you can see on the right side here, inserted hour, and you can see we have hour 11, 12, 1, 15. The hour is up to 24 hours, so we should be good to go. I'll go back home, close and apply, and now you can see we have a new column called hour. I'll go back to report view, and we have our visual selected. Now we can create our visual. I'll go ahead and check total orders, and I'm going to check hour. That didn't work well, so I'm going to remove hour from here, and I'm going to drag it manually to the x-axis. So now we have our area map. Now we can format. I'll go to format your visual, click on it. The x-axis, I'm going to remove the title, and the values are on. I'll go to values. I'll make this 11, and this will be black. The values are these ones here. Let's try bold. I think that looks a little bit better. I'll minimize the x-axis and go to the y-axis. In the y-axis, we need to remove everything here. We really don't need them. We're going to use data labels. I'll click on lines. The line style should be solid. That should be round. Everything looks good here, but I'm going to click on colors under lines. This is the line color. I think it looks good. I'll just leave it like that. Then the shade area, which is this one here. Area transparency is currently 60%. Let's make it 40% and see what it looks like. It's a little bit darker. I'll make it 65% or 70%. I think that looks better. The markers, I'll turn them on. I'll expand this. The shape is a round little circle, and the color, I'm going to choose this one here. I'm going to minimize that to create more space. Shape. Then you're going to need the data labels. I'll turn them on. You can see they're on here. The value, I'll expand this. The value is these values. If I can turn them off, you can see they're off now. Now they're back on. I'll increase the size a little bit, and I'll choose this black color. Looks a little better. We should put a background. I want to put a background a little bit. You see this background over here? That makes it look better. I think it looks better. I'll go back to the x-axis. We notice here that this starts from the first value here is at 9, and the last value here is at 11 p.m. 23:00. So what I'll do here, the minimum, instead of setting it as auto, I'm going to set this as 9. That way our visual becomes a little bit bigger and easier to use. So the first one is 9, 10, and so on. I'll minimize the range. The values are good. I'll come to general, title. This is total orders by hour. I'm going again to use schedule semi-bold. I'm going to bold it, and then I'm going to center it. So this looks good. Everything looks good on this one. I'll minimize title, effects. I'll turn the background off. I think it looks good enough, and I'm going to leave this like that. The next visual should show the monthly trend for total orders. This will help us understand the fluctuation from month to month. I'm going to copy this visual here. I'll click Ctrl+C. Then I'll click on the canvas. Somehow it's empty. Then Ctrl+V to paste. I'll drag it over here. I'll resize it a little bit. The reason I've done this is because it has some formatting that we're going to use. And for this, we are going to use a line chart. I'll simply just click on the line chart. And in this case, we are going to use total orders by month. Notice here that we don't have month. And I'll go back to table view to take a look at our data again. And you can see, if I can scroll back to the left, you can see we don't have month anywhere. We do have the hour, but again, we do have the date. This one, we have to go back to Power Query to create a new column. So I'll go back home, via home, and I'll click on transform data. That takes us to Power Query. I'll go ahead and choose merged pizza data, our table, and then I'll add column. I'm going to select this one, the date, and I'm going to click on the down arrow, the month, and I'm going to choose name of month. And you can see we have a new column called name of month. I'll go ahead and go back home, close and apply. And you can see we have a new column called month name. Next, we're going to need to abbreviate the months, the first 3 letters. And for this again, I'm going to click on the new column. And the column here, I'm going to call it month. Month equals upper. I'll click on it. Then I'll select left. The text is the month name over here. So month name. I'll click on it. I'll put a comma. And we need the number of characters, which is 3. I'll close the brackets and I'll close the second one. Then I'll click commit. And you can see we have an abbreviated column here called month. I'll go back to report view, and we need total orders by month. So I'll remove that and I'll put month. Now you can see we have July, May, January, August, and so on. If you try to sort this, sort by month, you can see September, October, November, May, March. It's really alphabetical order. And we sort by ascending, for example, April, August, December, and so on. This is by alphabetical order. We have to go back to Power Query and insert a new column. So I'll go back to transform data. You're back in Power Query, and I'll click on merged pizza data. Remember that we have month name, and what we need is month number. So I'll go back to date and select it. Then I'll click on add column up here, add column. Then I'll click the down arrow under date, month, and this time I'm going to choose month. Previously we chose name of the month, which is month name, which is already what we have. But right now I'm going to choose month and click on it. And you can see on the right side here, it inserted a new column. I'll scroll to the end to see it. And you can see that we have month and it's a number. But because we already have a column called month, I'm going to right click on this and I'll rename this as month number. I'll go back home and I'll close and apply to go back to Power View and load our data. And you can see on the right side that we have month number over here. So I'll go ahead and select month. And you can see under column tools that we have this sort by column. Again, I'll come back to it. I'll click the down arrow. And this time we are looking for month number, which is here. I'll click on it. Power BI is updating. Keep your eye here on these months here. Working on it, and you can see that everything has changed. We have January, February, March, all the way to December, just the way we want it. BI has completed loading that data, and our data is now sorted the way we want it. Now I'll come back here to show you that in the sort axis, notice that you have to select month, because sometimes it could be selected as total orders. Let me click on that so I can show you. And you notice that it really doesn't make any sense. So I'll go back, sort axis, and make sure that month is the one that is selected, and that this is sorted ascending. You can also set sorted descending. You see this is descending, but now right now we need it ascending. Everything looks good as far as we need. This is how we need our data. I'm going to leave this at that, and I'll see you in the next visual. Okay, so we go to our next visual, and the question you're answering is percentage of sales by pizza category. So this will be able to provide insights on popularity for each category and its contribution to overall sales. So this is pizza category and sales. I'll go back to Power BI. This time we are going to use a donut chart. I'll double click on it. I'll bring it over here. I'll resize it. Again, if I can go back, it's percentage of sales by pizza category. So the best way to show this will be the total revenue in the category. But notice also that we could have total orders in the category. It would still show which category has the most orders. But the best way to show this is the total revenue in the category. So I'm going to click on total revenue to select it. And then I'll choose category from here. And now we have total revenue by category. This is the category: classic, supreme, chicken, and veggie. And you can see by default, Power BI has selected the revenue and the percentage. Our question asks percentage of sales by pizza category. So by default, Power BI has given both the revenue and the percentage. We are going to see how to modify this if need be. But for now, let's start by fixing this category. I'll click on the down arrow, rename for this visual. I'll just put a capital C, uppercase. That looks better over here under the legend. And we have total revenue. I'll go to format your visual, legend. This is good. I'll not change anything, or probably I'm going to expand legend. The text. This is your UI, Let's try Sejo semi-bold and see how it looks like. Sejo UI semi-bold. I think this looks better, a little better. I'll leave it like that. I'll minimize the text. I'll come to the slices. I'll leave the colors just the way they are. The spacing, I'll just leave it exactly as it is. So I'll minimize the slices. Then I'll come back down to detail labels, which are on, and I can turn these off so you can see what we mean. They have disappeared, and now they're back. Now the options here, we have outside or inside. I'll leave this as outside, but I'll show you. If I put inside, you can see how they'll look like, and I think I like it. I like them outside, so I'll go back and put them outside. Check outside. And then the label contents. Notice here we have the data value and the percentage. The data value is, for example, here it's 215K and 26%. If I click on the down arrow, we can have the data value, which is just the revenue, or we can have the percentage of total, 26%, for example, for the classic, which has the highest sales. And if you go back to our mission statement, our question, the ask, you can see that they're looking for percentage of sales by pizza category, just the percentage. So we can give them just the percentage the way this one looks like, or we can give them a little bit more detail and choose the data value and percentage of the total. I think I prefer to give them both, data value and percentage of total. And you can see now we are back to the revenue and the percentage, revenue and the percentage. Now I'll come back down to values. I'll expand this one. Currently it's a Sejo UI 9. Again, I'm going to choose Sejo semi-bold, this one, and I'm going to choose black as our color here, black. I can increase the size a little bit, 10. I think that looks good. I think I'll leave it this way. Now I can come to general, the title, total revenue by category. That looks good, and I'm going to center it. Again, this is going to be Sejo semi-bold over here to match with the other visuals. That looks good. I'll minimize the title. I'll come down to effects, and I'm going to remove the background. I'll minimize effects, and I think our visual looks good enough. It answers the question that we need to answer, and it looks simple and clear, and I'm going to leave it like this. Before we go to the next visual, I would like to put a slicer on the left side here in this space. So I'll go ahead and select this background. I'll go to format shape, the style. I'm going to choose a different color here. I think I can choose a dark one like this one. Go ahead and choose it. I think I prefer that. Then I'll unselect, and I'll go back to our visuals, and this time I'm going to select a slicer, this one, the new one. I'll double click on it, and I'm going to drag it over here and resize it. That should be enough. We resize it if need be. And I'm going to choose category, in this case, as the slicer. You can see we have our categories: chicken, classic, supreme, and veggie. I'll go to format your visual. Under visual, slicer settings, I want to have select all, so we can choose all. So now we have 5 options here, and then the shape is a rectangle. This is fine. I'll just leave it like that. I'll go to the layout and expand it. The arrangement currently is grid, but I'm going to choose this as a single column. Then you're going to have maximum buttons showing as 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons showing here. The space between buttons, I think this is too big. I can reduce the space down to maybe around 2. Let's leave it at 4. I think that looks better. It's easy to click or tap. The callout values, currently they are set to den 12. Let's try our usual semi-bold. I think this looks better, and we center them. We can leave it like that, and probably even if we try bold, it doesn't really change anything, so I'll just undo bold. I'll minimize the callout values. That looks good enough. And now we come down to buttons. I'll go down to shadow. I'll expand it and turn it on, and you can see that we have a little shadow down here, but I'm going to choose this on the outside, on the inside. And if you look over here, I think this looks a little better being on the inside. I'll do the same for glow. I'll go ahead and expand glow, turn it on, and again I'm going to choose inside, and you can see we have a little glow that looks nice. I'll minimize glow, and again I'll do the same for accent bar. I'm going to turn on the accent bar. Notice that we have an accent bar on the left side, but this time I want to put it at the bottom here, at the bottom. Then I'm going to select a different color. Instead of black, I'm going to select our blue over here, a blue that matches with the values over here that we have done. And I'm going to increase this to 4 pixels. I think it should be down to 3 maybe. I think 3 looks better. I think I'll leave it at that. I'll close the accent bar. I'll now go to general. I'll click on general. We can keep the category. So I'll go to title and just fix this as category, capital, uppercase. Again, I'm going to change this to go semi-bold, and this time I'm going to choose a text color of white and a background of the same blue that we have. I think that looks good. This is the title. The effects, I'll come here and turn off the background. The background is off, and you can see how it looks like over here. I'll come back here. I think this should be center. So I'll minimize effects, and I'll come back to the title, and I'll choose center. And I think category now looks better this way. I'll go ahead and insert this slicer, the old slicer. The reason I'm putting the old slicer is because the slicer we are going to use is date, and it's so simple. This is much better for date. I'll double click on it. I'll drag it over here. I'll resize it. to fit into a box there. I think that looks good. I'll go ahead and choose date, and you can see automatically we have the from and to between. So I'll go ahead and directly go to format your visual, slicer settings, and you notice here we have several options, and automatically it has chosen between. I'm going to leave it as between, just the way it is. And the slicer header, that is the date, I think I should remove that and leave it just like that. The values, I'll expand this. Let's try sigil semi-bold as usual over here, and we can increase the size a little bit so they're easier to see. I think that looks good. And we can use the black font. Maybe I can try one little. I think that looks a little better. I'll minimize the values, and now I'll come to the background. It has no background, and I think I'm just going to leave it without any background for now, because we are going to make it transparent. So I'll minimize the values, and I'll come to the slider. The color is selected as this. I think I should select the blue, this same blue that we are using here for uniformity. I think that looks much better. I'll minimize that, and I'll minimize that. I think we're done here. I'll go to general. We don't have the title. I already turned it off. Effects, I'm going to remove the background. I'll minimize effects. And I think this looks much better. And I'm going to leave our sliders like this. Now, if I can test it, you can see that our visuals are responding to our slicers. If I can choose chicken, I'll hit Control Chicken. You can see that our slicers are working the way we need them to work. I'm going to right click on page 1 down here, rename this as home, enter. Then I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to duplicate, so that now we'll have 2 pages, and we can continue building our visuals. I'll see you in the next visual. First, I'm going to rename this as page 1. Instead of duplicate of page 1, I'll right click on it, click rename, and I'll simply call it page 1. I know it's not the best name, but let's just give it a simple name, page 1, enter. And I'll go back to our requirements. Now we need percentage of sales by pizza size. Let's put this in the next page so we can read everything. So we need percentage of sales by pizza size. This will provide insights on popularity of pizza size and contribution to overall sales. For this, we can use a pie chart. I'll go back to Power BI, and I'm going to delete the visuals I don't need. I'll select this one and remove it. I'll do the same with this one, remove it. I'll do the same with this one, I'll remove it. I'm going to copy this because we already have some formatting that we can transfer, I'm just going to copy this. Actually, I'll simply just move it over here. I'm going to select a pie chart like that. And instead of revenue by category, this is going to be by size. So I'm going to uncheck category and I'm going to check size. So now we have total revenue by size. Right away, you notice on this visual that we practically pretty much have everything we need. The only thing I don't quite like is L, M, S. I think we can have large, medium, small, X large, and XX large. Let's take a look at our data. I'll click on table view on the left, and this is our size over here. I'll go back to Power Query. So I'll click on transform data. By the way, you can also click on the down arrow here, transform data, or you can simply just click transform data. I'll click on transform data to go to Power Query. And I'm going to choose merged data as usual. This is our table that we are using. I'll look for size over here. And when I click on this down arrow, you can see that we have, this is what we have. It says list may be incomplete. Load more. And you can see we have our sizes over here. I'll cancel this. I'm going to right click on size and replace values. Here we are going to start with S, which is small. S you replace with small. I'll click OK, and you can see that you now have small instead of S. Medium is M. I'll right click, replace values, M, and I'll replace with medium. I'll click OK, and you can see now we have small and medium. Next is L, which is large. Right click, replace values, L, and this will be large. I'll click OK. Now we have large. So we have small, medium, large. I'd like to go down to where we can see the others. And again, I'll click the down arrow. And you can see we have large, medium, small, and X large. This is because we already replaced L with large, and this one became X large. So I'm going to replace X large with X dash large. So I'll cancel this. I'll right click, replace values. X large will be X large. I'll click OK. I'll check the down arrow again. You can see this is X large, and it still says list may be incomplete because we still have one that we have not fixed. I'll click load more, and you can see we have XX dash large. So everything looks good so far. I'll click OK. So we have small, medium, large, X large, and XX large. Now I'll click OK. I'll go back home, and you can see over here on the right side that it has replaced these values and filtered the rows. So now I'll go back home, click close and apply to go back to our visuals on Power View. 48,620 rows loaded. And you can see under size, we have full names. So I'll go back to report view, and you can see here now we have large, medium, small, X large, and XX large. Now we can format our visual just a little bit. Remember that we had already formatted the donut chart. We can actually leave it like this, but let's see what we can do to make it look a little better. Remember that our ask is percentage of sales by pizza size over here, percentage of sales by pizza size. But here again, we have the revenue and the percentage, and we can see that the large size pizza has the highest revenue, followed by medium, then small, large, and extra large in that order. I'll go ahead and go to format your visual. The legend is on this one, but I'll go back and call it, rename this as size with an uppercase S. That looks better. I'll go to format your visual. The legend is on. The text, I think I like the text. It's already Sejo UI semi-bold because we'd already formatted all this. I'll minimize this. I think everything looks good. Again, we can choose to just have the percentage or percentage and the revenue. Right now it's the revenue and the percentage. And to do that, I'll minimize the legend. I'll come to the detail labels again, and in this case we need the options. I'll minimize values and click on options, and under label contents, you notice now we have data, value, and percentage. Once again, if we just wanted the percentage, I'll click on percentage of total. Over here you can see this is just percentage of sales, which is really what we are being asked for, but you're providing a little more detail by choosing the data value and percentage of the total. I think I like this better again, and I'll go back to this one. I'm going to leave this visual like that. I think it looks good and it answers what we need to communicate. We can right away see that large and medium are the ones that contribute the highest sales, and we see that X large and XX large contribute to the lowest number of sales. The first three contribute to the bulk of the sales that this pizza joint has. I'll leave it at that, and I'll see you in the next visual. Our next visual is total pizzas sold by category. So this is the number of pizzas sold by pizza category, and this will help us understand the sales performance for each pizza category. I'll go back to Power BI, back where we were. In this case, we are going to use a funnel chart. I'll click outside so that nothing is selected. I'll go over here, and this is the funnel. I'll double click on it, and I'll bring it over here. I'll resize it, try to fit it into this box. I think that looks good enough. I'll leave it like that. And in this one, we need the total pizza sold down here on the right side. Total pizza sold. I'll put a check mark there. Total pizza sold by category. So I'll go up and choose category. I'll put a check mark on that one. Right away, you can see that the classic has the highest number of sales and chicken has the lowest. Now we are going to format the visual to communicate better and to look better. I'll go ahead and go to format your visual. We start with colors. Right now we have blue. Remember that you can select any color from here, and you can also click on more colors. You will click on that. You can pretty much use any color that you can think of, but in this case I'm going to click outside, and then I'm going to click on conditional formatting. I'll click on it, and now we have an option here. The format style here is gradient, and the field is total pizzas sold. If you click on the down arrow, remember that you can choose whatever you want here, but it's already selected as total pizzas sold because that's what you've selected. We have the lowest value and the highest value. And notice also that you can put a middle color. I'll check the middle color like that. For this one, I'm going to select a blue, this one, and then I'm going to leave the middle color as it is here, and here I'm going to select this purple like that. I'll click OK, and you can see we have a gradient of colors from the largest to the smallest. I'm going to minimize colors. I'm going to come to data labels. The data labels, if I can remove them, you can see I like the data labels. I'll go to the values. Again, I'm going to choose Sejao semi-bold. I'll increase this to 12. I think that looks good. Everything here looks good. 11, 12, 12, 15. I think I'll just leave it like that. I know this is 12 and this is 12. We can change the units. For example, display units, we've left it as auto. If I click on the down arrow, if we say none, you can see it's a little different. This has a little more than this. A little more, a little less, a little more. So let's just leave this as none so that you can see that there is a little difference between this one and this one. I'll minimize values. I'll go to category labels. They are on. I'll turn them off. You can see that we do need them. This one here. But I'm going to reformat them a little bit. I'm going to use Sejao semi-bold as usual. I'm going to set this at S12 and this color is going to be black. This one here. I'll minimize the values. And we have the conversion rate. If I turn this off, you can see this is the percentage that you see down here. And really we don't need the percentage in this case. We actually need to know the total pizzas sold. So I'm going to turn off this one. And now we have, this one looks much better and it's clearer. I'll go to general, the title. Again, this is total pizza sold by category. I will leave it like that. But I'm going to change this as Sejao semi-bold. I'm going to click on center. I think our visual looks good. If I hover over it, I put my mouse over, for example, this one here, you can see the category is classic, the total pizza sold, and the percentage of first. If I come here, you can see the percentage of first, which is the first is the purple, and the percentage of previous is the same. If you look at this one, again, it's trying to compare the categories and the percentage of the previous and the first one, and so on. And if you can look at this one from the data labels here under visual, this is format your visual, and we come to data labels. I'll expand it. You can see the label contents over here is data value, which is what we have. And we have the options here, percentage of first, percentage of previous. We can have the data value and the percentages and so on. I'm just going to leave it at data value. I think that looks good enough. I'll select outside to just take a look at our visual. I think everything here looks good and I'm going to leave this visual like that. The next question we need to answer is to find the top 5 best sellers by the total number of pizzas sold. I'll go back to Power BI and we are going to use this visual here, a stacked bar chart. I'm going to copy this because we have done some formatting that we can carry over. So I'll select it, Control C, Control V. Then I'm going to simply move it over here. And I'm going to select a stacked bar chart like that. I'm going to remove the category. And here we need the total number of pizzas sold. And we need the name of the pizza. It should be the name. I'll click on it. And you can see we have a whole long list of all the pizzas by their sales. But we just need the top 5. First of all, I'm going to remove this legend over here. We don't need it. I'll come to format your visual. And I'll remove the legend. I'll then come to filters over here. And notice here that we have total pizzas sold. I'm going to choose this one under the name, the drop down. Here we have basic filtering, where we can select, or we can select top N. Advanced filtering, but the one we need here is top N. I will choose that. So I'll choose top 5. By value, the value that we need here is the total pizzas sold. I'll simply drag it over here and drop it there. Total pizzas sold. And you can see that now we have the total 5 pizzas by the total number of pizzas sold. I'll go ahead and format this. I'll go to format your visual. I'll start with the x-axis, with the y-axis. Notice here that it tells me this visual is responsive, and to turn the axis to its original size, I can increase or enlarge the visual. I'll just leave it like that because it communicates well. I'll go ahead and format the y-axis. Again, I'll choose Sejo semi-bold, which is already pre-selected because we copied from here. We don't need the title, the total pizza sold. We really don't need that one. That will give us a little bit more room over here. I'll minimize the y-axis. I'll come to the x-axis. And again, I'm going to remove the title because you already have this total pizza sold by name. I'm going to come to general. The title sold by name. I'm going to make this uppercase, and so total pizzas sold by name. I'll go back to the visual. On the x-axis, I can see we need to remove this here. So the x-axis, we don't need the values. We simply just need the bars because we have the data values. So I'll come down to the data labels, the value. Currently they are 12. Sejo UI semi-bold. I think I'll just leave them like that. Let's see if we can. I think I'll just leave it at 12. That's how we'd formatted it before. And that's what we're going to do for that visual. It communicates everything. The classic deluxe pizza is the leading, followed by the chicken, barbecue chicken, then Hawaiian, pepperoni, and the Thai chicken. Before we go, I'm going to increase the size here, and I'm going to go back to general, to the title. The title, this should be top 5 pizzas by top 5 pizzas sold. I think this is a better title, top 5 pizzas sold. I'll unselect it. I think I'm going to leave it at that and see you in the next visual. Our last visual is the bottom 5 or the worst sellers by the total number of pizzas sold. And of course, this will help us identify the lowest performers. I'll go back to Power BI. And again, notice we just did top 5 pizzas sold, I'm simply going to copy this. I'll click on the visual, Control C, then Control V to paste, and I'll move this over here. Simply position it in place, and I'll come to the filters. Remember that here we have name, top 5 pizzas. You're going to, I'll click on the down arrow, and notice here we have show items, the top 5. Now I'm going to select the bottom 5 instead of the top 5. That's all we have to do. Makes life very easy. And this is by the number of total pizzas sold. Everything looks good. And now we have the lowest sellers. The Bry Curry Pizza, followed by Mediterranean, and so on. I think I want to format this a little bit to use different colors. So I'm going to minimize the filters, and I'll click format your visual. I'll start with the title. Bottom 5 pizzas sold. I think that tells the whole story there. I'll minimize the title. I'll go to the visual, and I'm looking for the bars, this one, and I'll click on conditional formatting just to choose different colors. This is what we have currently. Now we can use this one, and maybe we use some blue again. Maybe I can use that blue and purple. Let's see how that looks like. I think I need to remove purple and use something different. Let's try a green. I'll click outside. See how that looks like. So I'm just going to leave this one like that. So far, you notice that we now have all our visuals. We have a dashboard that is fully interactive, where, for example, if I select chicken, you can see everything changes according to your selections. You can also choose the date slicer. I'm going to leave the visuals like that. Everything looks good. Let's just give it one last check. This is bottom pizza sold, top pizza sold, looks good. And the total pizza sold by category, and the revenue by size. I'll go to the home page. Just one last look to make sure that everything looks good. The cards, everything looks okay. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to Saturday, everything looks good there. January through December, again everything looks good. And the total revenue by category looks perfect. I think this is a good report. I don't want to say it's perfect, but it's as good as we can make it today. We have answered all the questions that we needed to answer in a very simple dashboard, just 2 pages and a lot of information that the stakeholder can use. The pizza sales joint can improve their sales just by the data that we have given them. And we are going to leave this at that. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for watching the video. I would like to ask you to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends. And once again, I would also like to remind you that I do have a Power BI training course, the kind of training that is easy to follow, simple, and the kind of training that is designed to stick with you for a long time. I encourage you to take a look at it. I've given a link in the description. And again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.